Let's have an update on the golf cart project, shall we? Well, it may look a little different than when you last saw it, and quite a few things have changed since you last saw it. Last time you have saw it, I just got the engine running, and I was working on getting the frame done and getting gas pedals, brakes, clutch, all that. Since then, it's been maybe 2 weeks. Actually got it running, got it driving, and was going to do a video on me, showing it off being done, but, projects are never really done. It was just in a functioning state. And I broke it. I broke it real bad. This motor, from what I had a Volkswagen guy come over and look at it all. He thinks it's hopped up a little bit. And I cleaned the carburetor, and I tore the whole engine apart and just cleaned it, new gaskets, and whatnot. And so it ran good. It had plenty of power, enough so that when I stepped on it right there, it lifted the front end up and twisted this subframe off of the 66 Beetle. Engine's fine, golf cart's fine. Nothing moved on the cart itself, but the subframe, it's separated right there. I mean, it was rusty, but it separated all the way around, and everything shifted that way. Then we had wheels rubbing, and we should have way more clearance than that, and everything got messed up. So I said, whatever, forget that frame. I went and got this. This is that same piece, except with all the metal still intact. I'll let you look at what it should look like. That's what mine looked like. All that was rusted away. I mean, I had cut it back with a plasma cutter because it was rusted anyway, but that's what mine looked like, and this is what it should look like. This is off of a 70 Super Beetle. It was a convertible. It was in a guy's yard. It had been wrapped around a telephone pole. No engine, but I do have the transmission out of it. And it had been about a foot up from here where I cut it off. The thing made a 90, and then the front end would be over here, even with the back wheels down here. So it was all jacked up. So felt no shame in cutting that car up. So I cut it up, took the subframe, painted the inside, knocked all the rust off, knocked all the rust off the outside, painted it. Obviously, I missed a spot. I've been using this Valspar anti-rust primer armor. Seems to work pretty well. Still got to straighten these. Any of the Volkswagen guys out there, if you can tell me, I don't think they're supposed to have an angle to them like that, because the ones on this subframe didn't. They're flat. So, if you think I should straighten those, let me know. Or if you think I should use these, let me know. But I am terrified of that clock spring in there, and I haven't seen anyone take that out before. So I don't know. Yeah, so it's all painted. Here's the box. It went on the back. It pivoted, that piece of pipe, and I had a big pin that would run in, and it seemed to work pretty well. All this has been welded up. The subframe, it bolts to the golf cart. I have mentioned that before, so this I can just take it out like you would a Beetle. Comes out the same way, and that's that. Roll the engine out and service it. Only thing that needs to be done to the engine still is that valve cover pukes. I put 2 sets of valve cover gaskets, and I still can't get that one to quit puking, so I don't know what its deal is. As for the golf cart itself, it's been wired up. Of course, nothing's hooked up right now, but used to be. I would turn this key and it would crank right up, no problem. That's not the battery I'm going to use, but that is where the battery is going to live. Ground strap positive is over there. Electric fuel pump. All of that was salvaged from the junkyard, so that's why it's just kind of a hot mess. But it works great. It does work great. Fuel filter. That's a tack wire over there, because I have gauges, oil pumps, and amps, and all sorts of hot mess. I think I even have a vacuum gauge in there. Old plug wires, that sort of stuff. The front of this golf cart's pretty interesting. When I had gotten it, somebody had hit the front right here, and it was folded over about here, and it was also quite rusty. So their solution was, let's just put a piece of sheet metal over it. That's what those holes were. And screw the metal down and make a new cone. And the old cone came out to about here. It was obviously, you know, someone made it, but it looked good enough. But I needed somewhere to put the gas tank, and I needed a push bumper, and I needed somewhere to put a winch, so I came up with this. This is one of the old disc cutter, a disc cutter, the farming equipment that you use to cut up the ground that has the big round disc. That's the bar off of one. That's off of a tractor. That's a 3-point hitch. That's also off of the same tractor. Some pipe. That's some really stout angle iron I had down there, so I put the winch down there. I mean, this is part of the actual golf cart off the back. Just braced it to the body, and then I ran a brace down there, braced it against the sheet metal, and then I ran another brace down to the frame. This is braced to the frame. It's set up like a Ford Pinto, the whole explodey gas tank bumper deal, but to be honest, if I ever collapse that gas tank, I'm already dead because I'm through that wall. It would take quite a bit of force to bend that. So all that's well and good. This is just a gas tank. It's the gas tank off of this car, actually. But it's all well and good. This is my clutch, which needs to be repositioned. This is off of I believe it was some sort of Camaro, either a 69 or a 70, maybe a 71. The front of the car had been chopped off, the tail pan had been chopped off, and someone had cut it right above the or right below the window. So the car was really unidentifiable. Maybe if you were a Chevy guy, you could say, but I couldn't. Regardless, I pillaged this off of it. It's the parking brake. Bolted it in the same way the car had it. I used the original cable, which was really nice. Has the sleeve and everything. The sleeve comes back to about there when it's pulled tight. So step on that, pulls the Volkswagen clutch. It's all well and good. Brakes are hydraulic. They're off of a Nissan. I retained the mechanism where if I hit the brakes from the top, it locks, and that's a parking brake. Works well enough. It's fun for, you know, slinging it around. Master cylinder is right there. Here we go. And it just ties in with the old pedal mechanism. I made a couple linkages. Reason there's a hole there, a spare tire mounts right there. I had a bracket welded on, but I wanted to move it up for clearance, so a spare tire bolts on like a Jeep. One of the 15s off of the Beetle. Subframe really didn't change much, just a lot of bracing. I need to paint it all, paint this whole back half of the cart. The shifter, that's the stock Volkswagen shifter off of one of the cars, and then I ran a piece of, I think that's for, it's from hardware store. I think it's when you're trying to isolate your house from lightning. That's a lightning rod. I just stuck it through that hole. It worked well enough. Let's see, throttle cable was easy. I just used the stock stuff and made one little bracket, and it bolts up to a cable and pulls it. It's fine. Engine runs good. Transmission seems to work well, although I do need to figure out how to check the oil in the transmission, because I've never done that before. This thing only probably has about 30 minutes of drive time on it, which is still terrible, I know, but I do need to check that. Generator is bad on this, so I need to find a cheap alternator to bolt on, because I'm not going back to a generator for something that has a 12-volt battery anyway. The starter's just going to have to deal with it, and honestly, it hasn't complained yet, so whatever. This is a hack and slash project, if you can't tell. I need to take the heater boxes off, as well as the muffler. I'm going to go with some sort of hater pipe or something up here for ground clearance. That's how I'm justifying it. It's totally not because I want it loud. But yeah, so all that has to be swapped over. But we had the essentials. We had a clutch, we had brakes, and we had a gas pedal. We had ignition. It ran and drove. It tracked pretty straight. Hopefully it will when I bolt that over. I also have wood that goes in that bed. It's all over there. I know I'm talking at about 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm just trying to think of everything at once. But, yeah, project is not dead. It's just, I broke it. That's honestly what it was. I was probably going to make a video in 5 minutes, but I wanted to see what it would do when I really stepped on it over there, and it did that. But hopefully, with this new subframe, I won't break it. Because honestly, if I break that, then I'm going to be happy, because that means I got some sort of monster hot Volkswagen motor. But that's really it for the updates. This is where we're at.